This is CBC Vancouver News.
Personally, as a parent, I have a very big concern.
I don't think it's safety for our kids.
Richmond City Hall, the backdrop for heated debate tonight as opponents push back against a supervised consumption site. Plus, ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! As the Israel-Hamas war escalates, so too do calls for peace and protection for Palestinians. Also,
I don't know how far $700 million goes.
Ottawa forks over money for seniors care in BC, stirring hope and skepticism over what exactly that money will do. Good evening, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight in Richmond, where a heated council meeting has drawn dozens upon dozens and continued well into the night. More than 100 residents signed up to speak ahead of a vote to finalize a supervised consumption site.
We're just going to be encouraging more drug use by having a safe consumption site. Plus, apparently it's going to be right near the hospital. So do I want to go to the hospital if we've got people out wandering around in front of the hospital on drugs or passed out on the street? No.
I would like to see more resources dedicated to keeping fentanyl out of Canada. I think that would be the solution that would actually solve it once for all.
It's about no consumption site. It's about no drugs.
The proposal would see the consumption site set up near the Richmond Hospital. It would offer a supervised place for people to use substances and connect them with treatment or counseling services. Thousands of people have signed a petition against the plan. The city says the meeting will now resume tomorrow evening. Meanwhile, hundreds of people marched through downtown Vancouver this evening in support of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Israeli forces have killed dozens of people in Rafah, the southern Gaza city, where 1.5 million Palestinians have taken refuge. Israel says it rescued 2 hostages during that raid. Vancouverites with family members in Gaza are worried for their safety.
And the worry and stress that I have for my family, and I don't know if I'm going to see them again.
Israel has evacuated many other parts of the Gaza Strip during the 4-month war. It's believed at least 67 Palestinians have been killed in Rafah in the wake of that Israeli hostage rescue yesterday. Well, funding is being funneled to seniors care in BC, and for many it can't come soon enough. The federal government is earmarking upwards of $700 million for seniors care province-wide. It's all part of a $1.2 billion agreement between the province and the feds announced last fall. Our Michelle Gomez is hearing from those with loved ones in care who say it is desperately needed.
All right, let's do this.
Expanding community care for seniors living at home, providing palliative care outside of hospital settings, and improving quality at long-term care homes. These are some of the objectives the Ministry of Health says new funding will accomplish.
After a lifetime of hard work and contributing to society, it's essential that we're there for our seniors to make sure that they have the quality of life and the quality of care they so richly deserve.
Scott Campbell's mother lives in a Fort St. John care home. He's made multiple complaints about the quality of care she receives and hopes this funding will make an improvement.
I don't know how far $700 million goes. I mean, anything that's going to help improve the life for our residents is always welcomed. I hope it just doesn't get, dissolved into the general operating budgets of the different health authorities.
Advocates say there's also a dire need for access to less expensive at-home care.
If a person, a single senior living at home alone, had an income of $29,000 a year, and we were going to give them 1 hour of home support a day, which is not a lot, we're going to charge that person $9,000 a year. So this cost prohibitive issue is real. Mackenzie says the cost of home care pushes many seniors to preemptively move into long-term care, a push that New Westminster resident Janet Taylor is experiencing. She's the sole caregiver for her 95-year-old husband who uses a wheelchair.
And I don't get a break unless I hire a private agency. It is a tremendous strain on the family budget. And I'm encouraged to send him into care all the time. He doesn't want to go. I don't want him there.
Mackenzie hopes the funding will go beyond providing care to seniors and also support caregivers like Janet.
But the other part of it is I'm caring for my spouse who has dementia, and I can cope with that if somebody can come in so that I can get out of the house for 4 hours.
The funding is part of a deal BC signed in October, where the federal government will provide a total of $1.2 billion to the province for healthcare over 3 years. Michelle Gomez, CBC News, Vancouver.
In Kelowna, multiple people were taken to the hospital today after a driver allegedly plowed into a group of cyclists and vehicles in front of a school. Students and teachers arrived at Rutland Middle School this morning to this scene. 3 vehicles badly damaged and pushed up onto a sidewalk in front of the school. Police say no one died, but multiple people were hospitalized and the driver of one of the vehicles taken into custody. We spoke with one woman who owns a car that was involved in the crash. She says she was lucky she wasn't inside at the time.
I parked in one place and it's really slided down and spun around. The car is facing totally different direction than when I left it.
Police have not said what led up to the crash or if the suspect driver is facing criminal charges. Well, Canada Line service has resumed tonight after a medical emergency shut it down in both directions for 3 hours this evening. The outage started around 5:15 p.m. at Vancouver City Centre, causing a service disruption between Waterfront Station and Olympic Village Station. Trains are now running again to and from Waterfront, and the bus bridge has been cleared. Well, you may remember the sextortion case involving a Surrey teen who died after being tricked into sending intimate images and then blackmailed. A Nigerian man has now been charged and is waiting to stand trial in the case. Arlene Young spoke with the CBC's Jason Proctor, who's been looking into this case. And as he explains, cases like this are happening more and more often.
Jason, you actually spoke to the mom of another victim. What did she tell you?
Yeah, I did. And this is exactly as you say, Leanne. What really struck me about this is there's a fact pattern here which is striking and which is absolutely tragic. I spoke to the mother of a 17-year-old who died in Michigan in 2022. His name was Jordan DeMay. Exact same pattern of facts here. Sort of, got online with somebody, spoke with somebody that he thought was an attractive woman online. Again, he's 17, and then gets extorted for cash. The sort of final words that he had back and forth on text where he's desperate and sort of pleading with these people who are asking for $1,000, gives him $300, there's no break, and he tells them he's going to kill himself, and that indeed is what happened. So his mother has been speaking vocally. What is amazing about this case, and what it also sort of ends up relating to the BC case, is that the FBI have gone hard on this, and they extradited 2 suspects from Nigeria to Michigan to face trial on this. And, I asked the mother in this case, what was that like for you to see these 2 men in court? They're 20, they're 22. As she says, there's no way they ever thought they would face the mother of the victim, who's sort of an anonymous mark to them online, and she's standing looking at them. And, just the tragedy of this whole thing is driven home, and also just how nakedly commercial in sort of an evil way this whole kind of fact pattern is.
Right, these boys have lost their lives, but also on the other side of the world, they see this as a business case, right? So what more do we know about these suspects? Because, they seem to all be from Nigeria, at least the couple of cases we've been looking at.
Well, yeah, and there's actually been research that's been done on this called by an institution called the Network Contagion Research Institute. They linked the BC case to the Michigan case to other cases, not in that these people are all, working together as a giant group that know each other, but they're part of this loosely affiliated criminal organization that call themselves the Yahoo Boys. Yahoo coming from these sort of emails that went out, a couple of decades ago, with this sort of classic Nigerian prince scam who's looking to get money out. But they share techniques online. They share scripts, literally. They buy the names of people and get in contact with them. And they share sort of ways to sort of bomb, they call it, by sending flooding emails and sort of Instagram likes into high schools with the hopes that they'll, pick up victims, and it kind of goes from there. So you just see how absolutely kind of horrible this crime is.
It really, really is. And they see it as a business, as you say. So it's just awful to learn these facts. Okay, thank you for that, Jason, for looking into it. It's our Jason Proctor.
Well, the BC Cherry Association says this year's crops could be dramatically reduced because of extreme weather. Farmers say January's cold snap caused significant damage to the buds this year, and that's leading to uncertainty about this summer's crop. The group says this is the 5th consecutive year of extreme weather, and it's threatening some farmers' entire survival in the industry. Growers are calling on the provincial and federal governments to invest more money in the agriculture sector to help it endure extreme weather. Well, coming up next, talking about sex with your family doctor can be intimidating. We find out how to get the information you need without the awkwardness. That's coming up after the break. Stay with us. And thank you for watching our commercial-free live stream. Mount Allison University in New Brunswick is modernizing its 54-year-old campus library. The 5-year project comes with an $85 million price tag. The concept is to repurpose the building while retaining its 70s character. CBC went to check out the new plans.
This is the R.P. Bell Library on Mount Allison campus in Sackville, New Brunswick. Built in 1970, it's about to undergo its first renovation in 54 years.
It does need some love, I think.
The idea is to turn this 70s-era building into a learning hub that better serves the future students and faculty.
Our classrooms need to be updated in terms of their technologies and the ways that faculty are engaging with students, and as well as our collections. So we'll be making sure that there are good spaces for students, good spaces for faculty, good spaces for research and collaboration and engagement.
In order to bring this building into the future, it's going to take a lot of planning and work. Here's just a few of the changes that need to be made. More outlets, upgraded elevators and entrances, customizable study and gathering spaces, all gender and barrier-free washrooms. While construction isn't expected to be completed until 2029, current students have some opinions on the plans.
It's very bright. It's unwelcoming from what I've seen. It's a bit hostile.
I personally don't like how bright and white it is. It feels like not a very fun study environment. I prefer more a comforting environment, I think.
So I saw them on Instagram and I first went through and I was like, oh my God, I love these. It looks beautiful and so bright. And then I went into the comments and everyone was hating on it and they were like, oh, this is like a hospital, all this stuff. So personally, I love it.
Both the project and the building are going to be energy and water efficient and have reduced emissions.
When a contractor's building the building, how do they do it in a way that's clean and doesn't hurt our environment? And then as you get into the design and construction of the building, energy efficient systems to make sure that the building runs and operates in a way that also minimizes our footprint.
And if you're wondering what's going to happen to the books during the renovation, the main collection and some special collections will be moved to the interim library.
Welcome back. Valentine's Day is coming up, and this week we're doing a deep dive into all things love. Navigating a romantic relationship means thinking about everything from blended finances to understanding communication styles. And today, CBC Health columnist Dr. Melissa Lem joins us to talk about something a little more delicate. So, Dr. Lem, talking about sex can be a little uncomfortable for some, even with a medical doctor. So how do you lighten the mood to perhaps encourage that kind of discussion?
I think the context, first of all, is quite important. So bring it up during a context that makes sense for the conversation. Like if a patient's coming in for a Pap test or to renew their birth control or to come in for a condition that is related to sexual health issues. And then it's important for me to approach the topic in a non-judgmental way, to be quite matter of fact, and then also not make assumptions about my patients, whether it's the gender of their partners or their sexual practices, to show them that it's a safe space. And I think it's also really important for us as health professionals to know that not all doctors are comfortable talking about sexual health issues. For example, I not infrequently will see patients who are referred to me by male doctors because they refuse to do Pap tests for their patients. And so I think it's important for all of us to provide better overall sexual health care so we can take care of our whole patients.
Interesting. We understand a common hang-up is what to do if you're in a healthy relationship but experiencing low libido. So what's your advice in that case?
It's important to understand that your libido is only a problem if it's a concern for you. So we get bombarded with all kinds of hypersexualized media, images, dating apps, and hookup culture. But in real life, sex drive is on a spectrum. There are some people with lower sex drive and higher sex drive. So if it's not causing a problem in your relationship, you can let it lie. But that said, if it is an issue, and especially if you notice health symptoms that go along with it that are concerning to you, and if it's a major departure from your normal, then it would be a good idea to talk with your doctor about it.
So if there is a change you've noticed explicitly, okay. Now, on that note, sex, of course, isn't just medical. So in what kind of circumstance would you refer a patient to, say, a sex therapist?
Sex therapists deal with the emotional and mental basis behind lots of issues that we have with sexual health. So that could be anywhere from lower libido to pain during intercourse to issues with sexual trauma or even communication between partners. And their entire goal is to help you deal with and identify issues that come up in your lifestyle or your sexual health that interfere with your sex life. And so there's a huge range of issues that they deal with. It's not just sitting and talking on a couch with a couple all the time.
Yeah, no doubt. What should patients know about how their sex lives might change with age? Because we know that does happen. So what are some common reassurances perhaps you give people in that regard?
First of all, it's quite common for libido to drop overall as you age because of lower amounts of the primary sex hormones, estrogen and testosterone. And also we tend to acquire chronic diseases that can affect our sex drive and also take medications that can affect your sexual health. For women in particular, a common concern is vaginal dryness and tissue thinning, and know that that can actually be addressed in a very effective way, in a safe way by your doctor, so don't hesitate to talk to them about it. And for men in particular, although erectile dysfunction becomes common, it can be a canary in the coal mine for cardiovascular disease. In fact, men over 60 who report erectile dysfunction have a twice as high risk of developing a heart attack or a stroke in the next 4 years. So if we want to have healthy sex lives as we age, we also need to keep in mind we need to prioritize our overall health too.
Absolutely, a lot to think about, and interesting you say as well that people should not be afraid to bring this up and that it should be an open discussion. So hopefully that's the takeaway here. Thank you so much, Dr. Melissa Lem, for joining us today. In other health news, many Canadians have been complaining of a nagging cough, sometimes days or even weeks after a viral infection. Well, unfortunately, for most cases, there are no quick fixes, and it usually just subsides with time. But as the CBC's Lauren Pelly is finding out, a cough lasting longer than 8 weeks may need medical attention.
Canadians know the feeling, a cough that just won't quit.
I still have it. Yeah, it comes and goes.
I do normally wait it out myself. If it were to last for weeks, though, I would definitely go into the doctor.
Usually, home remedies. So like hot water, mixed with turmeric. That's what we do in our culture.
So what's the best way to tackle a nagging cough? Well, a trio of doctors writing Monday in the Canadian Medical Association Journal say when a cough follows an infection, often it's just a waiting game.
We look through the evidence of what can be used to treat or stop a post-infectious cough. And the answer, surprisingly, is time and patience.
This family doctor says he's only talking about cases where someone had a known viral infection beforehand, like a cold or the flu.
Most of the time, the patient's own cough will resolve on its own without any medication or treatment. But it lasts a lot longer than you think, anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks in total.
But if a cough lasts beyond 2 months, it can signal a deeper health issue. Physicians say other red flags can include coughing up blood, shortness of breath, wheezing, or difficulty swallowing.
In those cases, conditions like asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or COPD, or even whooping cough could be the culprit. And you might need treatment like an inhaler or other medications.
If the cough has been persistent for up to 6 to 8 weeks, then at least to do a basic chest x-ray to make sure there's no serious underlying lung disease.
Doctors say getting a proper diagnosis is important, but for most run-of-the-mill coughs caused by a virus, there's not much they can do. So the advice is just wait it out. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
The people involved in the contracting, development, and implementation of the arrivecan app are under fire. Canada's Auditor General says they ignored basic management practices and says taxpayers paid too much for the pandemic app. The CBC's David Thurton has more on her scathing report.
This multi-million-dollar app wasted tax dollars, according to the Auditor General.
Overall, this audit shows a glaring disregard for basic management and contracting practices throughout arrivecan's development and implementation.
Her audit laid the blame on the Canada Border Services Agency, the Public Health Agency, and Procurement Canada. Travelers were required to use arrivecan during the pandemic's early days. It is still used for immigration declaration forms, but remains controversial.
I have to say that I am deeply concerned by what this audit didn't find.
Hogan's audit found very little information for awarding GC Strategies an uncompetitive contract. Record keeping was so bad that it was hard to estimate the app's final costs. Estimates peg it at nearly $60 million. According to the Auditor General, if the Government of Canada had done this kind of IT work, it would have cost an average of $675 a day. Instead, with arrivecan's contractors, it costs almost twice as much, nearly $1,100.
In no way are we going to defend this particular contracting process.
The minister responsible for the Canada Border Services Agency says that every single recommendation will be implemented, but also shifted accountability to the CBSA's head.
She is taking all of the appropriate steps to hold anybody to account in the case of alleged wrongdoing, but also to ensure that this kind of circumstance can never be allowed to happen again.
The Conservative leader blamed the Prime Minister.
Won't he stand up today and admit that the app is just like him? It's not worth the cost, it's not worth the corruption.
The Auditor General stopped short of calling this corruption. She left that to the RCMP, which is investigating issues across the CBSA. But she did say that this is some of the worst financial record keeping that she's probably ever seen. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Here's a live shot of the Port of Vancouver. The sun finally broke through the clouds today, and lots more on the way yet. Details in the 5-day forecast next.
Elden Ross Pool is one of the few places Sardar Brar can swim for free.
It's a very, very good exercise. From birth to death, you can do it. You cannot do, there's many exercises, you cannot run all your life. But you can swim all your life.
That affordability is important for Katrina Purdy and her 5 kids.
It's not easy for little kids, for like us with little kids and like elderly people to go further places.
Every week, they walk from school to the Norwest Co-op and meet skill developer Desiree Fredette.
We learned very quickly that the kids love going there, and so do our seniors and our adults. We actually have a hard time getting people to come in for programs when there's free swim.
Then they head next door to the pool.
It's a positive thing to do. There's other things kids could be doing, and that's a positive thing to be doing. So we just don't want our kids out on the streets doing negative things.
The city's latest budget calls for the closure of several aquatic facilities, including the Elden Ross Pool, along with the Happyland and Windsor Park outdoor pools. They will also review attendance, revenue, and operating costs at Sherbrooke Pool over the next 4 years. Community Services Chair Evan Duncan says attendance at the facilities isn't keeping up with costs.
I think that we need to make a decision here if we're going to invest into old infrastructure or turn the corner here and invest into new infrastructure that serves a larger part of the community. Unfortunately, our aging pools are no longer serving anyone.
For people who use Elden Ross Pool, the nearest alternatives are at Sergeant Tommy Prince Place or the Cindy Clausen Recreation Complex, a 30 to 40-minute bus ride away. Norwest Co-op Community Development Coordinator Michelle Kirkbride worries that could prevent kids from learning to swim.
Swimming lessons can be a barrier for people if they're having to travel out of the community.
Council will consider the budget and the fate of the Elden Ross Pool on March 20th. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On March 8th, join CBC Vancouver's Michelle Elliott for a morning of transformative social change at West Coast Leaf's annual fundraiser, the Equality Breakfast. For tickets, visit westcoastleaf.org. And CBC Vancouver's the media partner at the Alumni UBC event, Shaping Solutions for the Housing Crisis, March 11th. Explore this multifaceted issue with panel members who will share their diverse ideas about solving this problem. Register at alumniubc.ca.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
And for a look at the forecast, let's bring in Victor Paolo. And Victor, we certainly had a soggy Sunday, but started to dry out today. Any more precipitation on the horizon?
Well, you know, the good news is if we do take a bit of a peek towards our weekend, there's a chance we're going to be getting some precipitation. Now, how much precipitation? I can't let all the cats out the bag right now. We got to wait till the end of this weather hit to let you know exactly what's coming. But here's what it looks like right now if we take a peek as to what is happening overnight. It's going to be another dry night, a great night if you're someone who loves to stargaze, someone who likes to look up into the sky. And as we do get into our day for tomorrow, around 7 in the morning, you can see there's going to be just a touch of cloud cover, which will be here. Now, with that cloud cover, we're going to be expecting more of a sunny day for your Tuesday. And by the time we get into Wednesday, you can see what is coming our way for the weekend. Now, we just alluded to it. We're expecting some precipitation, but how much precipitation, you might ask? Got to hold on for that one. Let's talk about tonight. Well, tonight, if you look behind me, it will be pretty foggy in the Vancouver area, and we're expecting it to be around 5 degrees. Now, here's what it's going to look like for your tomorrow morning. That sun will come out, dissipate all of those foggy sky that we're going to have, and it's going to be 3 degrees with a bit of sun. And as you do get later on into the day, here's a look at our 3 and 7 day forecast. Well, looking at Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, look at that sunshine. It's going to be pretty above seasonal, quite the mild temperatures. We're expecting a bit of mixed precipitation here on Thursday, but let's take a look at that weekend weather. Here's what's really going on. We're expecting anywhere from 15 millimeters, call that 30 by Sunday, and by the time we get to Monday, there is close to about 40 millimeters of rain that we're expecting to fall over the region. Now, between now and then, we got some sunny days, but we're hoping everyone is going to enjoy the rest of the sunny days before that weekend comes, because as you mentioned, it was a soggy yesterday, and we're expecting some more rain to come on the weekend. But in between all of that, it's nice to get a mix of sun and a bit of mix of rain. Vancouver, hope you have yourselves a lovely rest of your night. And over to you.
Thank you so much, Victor. And that is your late news for this Monday, February 12th. For news anytime, anywhere, download the free CBC News app. You can always find us online as well. We're at cbc.ca/BC. Your next local newscast is on the early edition. That's on CBC Radio 1 starting tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night.